and I am thrilled to have a conversation today to two American researchers who have contributed a lot to how philanthropic forces can have an impact in business in Mexico. Michael Layton and Michael Moody, welcome to IPADE. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Anna and Christina, thanks so very much. It's our honor to be part of your program and be present here in the beautiful facilities of IPADE and have a fantastic conversation. My name is Michael Layton, and I hold the W.K. Kellogg Community Philanthropy Chair at the Dorothy A. Johnson Center for Philanthropy at Grand Valley State University in Michigan. And I've held that chair for 4 years now.
And I am Michael Moody, and I am a professor of philanthropic studies at the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, which is at Indiana University at Indianapolis. And I have joined with my colleague here to create this study of Mexican philanthropy. And well, I'll say that we started this study in part because we know it's a very important time in Mexican philanthropy. It's a time in which there is a significant amount of activity happening, but where not too many people know about it. And so we did the research in part to shine a light on some interesting developments in the Mexican philanthropic sector and how it connects specifically to the Mexican business sector and family businesses specifically. But there hadn't been enough study of how families and family businesses think about their giving, how they go about their giving, especially their giving locally within communities and to community institutions like community foundations. And so that connection between family business and family donors to community foundations and community giving is an important one. It's an essential one for the future.
About the study is that there hadn't been enough research where researchers had conversations and had recorded conversations with these kinds of donors. And we felt like that was a really unique thing, to have conversations and let the conversation go where it will, to really capture the generosity and the great intentionality of people in business. And we've been co-sponsored in our events with Coparmex, with USEM, with CCE, and there's a consciousness among business people that they want to contribute. They want to see Mexico be a stronger nation, be a more equitable nation. And I feel very fortunate that we have come to Mexico in that moment of connecting with these incredible leaders.
That's very good news, and it creates a positive complicity of wanting to know more and wanting to share more with the business community. So in these different spaces that you've shared with different audiences, what has been surprising? What related to your findings? What do you think the audiences go like, wow, I hadn't thought about that in terms of how family philanthropy looks like in Mexico?
Well, I'll say one thing that an indicator of people appreciating and being maybe surprised by what we said is the number of heads that nod in the room. And I think one of the things when we present this finding that I see the heads nod is when we make the argument, when we point out that what we found was that Mexico is a very generous country, has centuries of charitable history. But many people believe that, and the word we heard often in our research was that Mexican philanthropy is in its infancia. And those two things seem in contrast to each other. It's not young, it's been around for centuries. And so when we try to explain what do they mean by infancia, people say, oh, that makes sense. And that's a couple of points. One is that there is a great amount of giving, especially in many cases by family businesses in communities that do a tremendous amount of giving, as well as a tremendous amount of social responsibility activities, volunteering, etc., through the business. But most people don't know it. It's mostly silent and hidden for various reasons. And so there is a very vocal minority where most people know the families that are the biggest donors, but a vast majority that's silent. And people seem to resonate with that as a way of understanding that this is a generous nation, but the organized philanthropy, the strategic families that give through formalized institutions, those are what's still beginning to develop and advance in the country. So a lot of family giving, a lot of family business giving, but the movement is now toward more strategic giving, more formalized giving, and more public giving. And we hope that some of the recommendations that we're giving will allow families to make that transition, and to do that in ways together in community around institutions like community foundations or other donor collaboratives like Ensemble here based in Mexico City or others. So I think recognizing that it's a generous country.
And I think that's what we hope one of the things that this report can do is to open those conversations and have people recognize those differences. And I should mention, you are one of the few other researchers who have gone and had these kinds of conversations with business leaders, especially, where you go and interview people and you talk to them and you get their stories.
That's amazing, right? Because I always say we always talk about the importance of building bridges and having, almost like spaces where we can translate what civil society is talking about and the interests of business, right? So in a country like Mexico, where family businesses are so important, they're the backbone of our economy. So what do the new generations want to hear? Like, if they want to get engaged, if they want real impact to happen from their families, from their businesses, what do they want to hear? What engages them to participate in community foundations, in family philanthropy?
Many business leaders want to see their activities contribute to the well-being of the community. And leadership from Coparmex in particular, and in conjunction with other business associations, leading the effort to try to increase the minimum wage without catalyzing inflation. That's just an amazing example of that kind of activity. And I think it starts with thinking about what we inherited from our grandparents and our parents, and as a business itself, as a business leader, thinking about the position and the actions that someone can take to make their communities better through the things that they do in their business, the way they pay their employees, the way they treat their proveedores, the supply chain, so that they're engaged not just in philanthropic giving, but they start to understand themselves as a key part of the well-being of their community through all that they do.
I would say we've heard many times this idea that that we need to talk to other people about how we have engaged in community philanthropy and engaged in done our giving, but people are a little careful not to do that for various reasons. One of which is religious reasons or cultural reasons that would suggest giving is something you do for very personal and heart and reasons based in your heart, that to stand up and talk about, I give this amount of money and you should look at me and praise me for giving that amount of money, that's not something that business leaders want to do. They do, as we said, most of it is done very private and silent and hidden way. That means that people don't see what others are doing. They don't offer the opportunity to collaborate with others and say, oh, you're working with that organization, I also work with that organization. Maybe we can work together and create a much higher level of impact if we collaborate together. And so I would say business leaders in community that are already doing community giving can tell their stories. And it doesn't have to be a story of, I'm a great person for giving. It can be a story of, I tried this and it didn't work. And so then we tried this other strategy and it worked. Or stories of their own learning from failures. It can also be stories of collaboration. We came together and by we did more together than we could ever do individually as one business or one donor. And so I think people who become ambassadors or promoters of larger community giving, which are often business leaders, they can tell their own story and then also tell the stories of others that may not want to step forward and tell their story. And be willing to tell the stories of when things didn't go exactly right, so that you can then talk about the strategy you used to overcome an obstacle. But I think that willingness to do that can make one an ambassador for giving for others, and it's really necessary. And we've seen it in community after community. When there's a person or two that's willing to do that, they become the driver of this development in a community.
I love that.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, inspired by what you just said, at the end of the report, we identify 5 opportunities, and they come in 2 parts. One is, what did we hear about from donors, business leaders, about what they need to engage more fully with their communities? And then, what can a community foundation do to make that happen? And the top recommendation was collaboration, peer learning, and advocacy. And those things happen when you come together. Those were the needs that were most firmly and consistently articulated by the people that we interviewed. And on the flip side, a community foundation, one of its most powerful roles is to be a catalyst for bringing people together, for finding solutions, for finding a way forward, so that business leaders, foundations, civil society, even government, when it's willing, can come together and mobilize various kinds of resources to address the problems and the challenges that the community itself has identified. And for me, that's, let's call it the secret sauce, right? No, la salsa secreta of community foundations is to play that catalytic role as a convener and a community leader.
I love that. And just to wrap this up, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. You started by saying how you wanted your work to have impact. Well, it's just by sitting here with us, it's already having impact. So thank you so much.